Good day. My name is David Wild, and this is the fourth part of a five-part lecture on Chapter 16 on Human Resource Management from Connect Master Management 2.0. In this part of the lecture, we will discuss evaluating and compensating employees. Building employee KSAs is critical for organizational success. But employee success also depends on the individual's attitudes and behavior. Motivation-oriented HR practices target employee motivation and drive. People are motivated in different ways from different sources. The challenge for managers is to try to motivate their workers to work as hard as they can and use their talents to help the organization reach its objectives. The primary tools managers use are performance management and total rewards to try to motivate workers to continually improve their performance. Performance management is the process of evaluating employees on how well they do their jobs. The results of the evaluation are used by managers to make pay decisions. Evaluating employees can be based on several distinct approaches. Managers may rank their employees relative to one another. They may evaluate employees against some standard, or they may evaluate employees based on the results of their work. First, ranking approaches. One approach is to simply place all employees in order on some dimension of performance, such as ranking employees from the fastest to the slowest on a specific test. A variation of the ranking approach is a forced distribution, which lumps people with similar scores together. An absolute evaluation approach compares each person to some standard. This means that everyone could conceivably receive a high evaluation, or everyone could receive a low evaluation. Companies evaluate people in terms of traits they possess or their behaviors in the workplace. Figure 4, which taken from the text and you also see on your screen, provides an example of a graphic rating scale, often used to give managers a tool to evaluate their employees based on traits. In this case, the employees are rated on how helpful, how cooperative, how much product knowledge they have, and how much creativity they display. Two well-known behavior-oriented absolute approaches are the Behavioral Observation Scale, or BOS, and the Behavioral Anchored Rating Scale, or BARS. The BOS, the Behavioral Observation Scale approach, asks managers to evaluate how often employees engage in certain behaviors on the job. An example of this can be seen in Figure 5 taken from your textbook and shown on screen, where a manager is asked to evaluate how often an employee engages with new customers who enter the store, how often an employee follows up with customers within 1 week of their visit, and how often an employee provides customer feedback to the store manager. Behaviorally anchored ratings focus on evaluating specific examples of behaviors to help provide a guide for managers evaluating employees. Figure 6, again taken from your text and shown on screen, is a hypothetical BARS scale, or behaviorally anchored rating scale, for evaluating how prepared students are for class. As you can see, someone, like a professor, would be rating a student based on the level of their preparedness for class, from 5 down to 1. Now, we'll talk about other approaches to performance management. A results-based approach measures performance on the basis of a clear outcome, such as sales, but it can be used for other positions as well. Management by objectives, or MBO, is an approach that creates targeted goals for performance improvement. In the MBO approach, managers meet with their supervisors to agree on quantifiable goals for the review period. Performance feedback and action planning. The second component of performance management is providing feedback and action planning. Companies vary with the frequency in which they provide formal feedback to employees. They can range from quarterly to semi-annually to even annually, with annually being the most common interval. As an alternative to this annual formal approach, some managers try to provide frequent feedback in the form of informal discussions when something is particularly good or bad, and they conduct the formal appraisal on the regularly scheduled basis. Some companies have done away with formal appraisals and instead provide frequent feedback check-ins, touch points, and performance snapshots in real time. One of the most important aspects of providing performance feedback is to help the employee develop a plan for moving forward. Doing so requires managers to understand the causes of poor performance. A skills deficiency might suggest a need for additional training, but an effort problem suggests it is something within the employee's control. It is also important to take into account the context. Did the employee experience challenging circumstances that might have contributed to the poor performance? If so, the performance might be out of their control. But when the situation is a result of the individual's attitude or effort, then managers need to take corrective action. The first course of action is typically a meeting with the employee to review the performance issue and to discuss plans to correct the situation. Often, this is sufficient to see an improvement in performance. Sometimes, however, the problem does continue. In these situations, managers may need to think about discipline. Progressive discipline is a process in which employees with disciplinary problems go through several steps until the problem is corrected. The typical steps in a progressive discipline process include a verbal warning, then a written reprimand, suspension, and then a final warning, and then finally, ultimately, termination. Sources of performance data. One important consideration when evaluating performance is to consider who provides the information for the assessment. In most companies, the supervisor is responsible for evaluating their employees, but there are other options as well. Some companies ask employees to rate each other, while some companies may ask employees to even evaluate their supervisor. One extensive form of evaluation is known as a 360-degree appraisal, in which multiple data sources are used to provide employees with a comprehensive review of their performance, typically coming from colleagues, customers, their supervisor, and even themselves. And now let's address the issue of compensation. A foundational area within human resource management is employee compensation. Compensation, or more broadly, total rewards, refers to the process of reward and recognition that motivates employees to use their talents to achieve the organization's objectives. These components include benefits and pay. Benefits. In the United States, employee benefits fall into two categories: those required by law and those an employer chooses to offer voluntarily. Companies are required to pay a portion of their employees' Social Security and Medicare contributions, while employees match that contribution in the form of payroll deductions. Companies must also pay for unemployment insurance for employees in the event employees lose their jobs. In addition, companies pay for workers' compensation insurance, which provides financial support to employees unable to work as a result of workplace injury or illness. In addition to required benefits, a voluntary comprehensive benefits package for employees can attract and retain top-notch talent, particularly in a tight labor market. Some potential benefits include competitive health care insurance and coverage and rates, flexible work schedules, paid time off, bonuses, profit-sharing plans, and 401k programs to help employees save for retirement. Now, the area of pay. Although other components may exist in an organization's total rewards plan, a few key motivating components include base pay, merit pay, incentives, and non-monetary compensation. Base pay refers to the guaranteed rate of pay someone earns while working for an organization. There are two forms of base pay: hourly pay and salary pay. Merit pay refers to programs in which employees who perform at higher levels should receive greater rewards. Incentive plans. Individual-based incentive pay plans operate by setting targets for employees to reach to achieve additional compensation. This is often called variable pay or pay for performance in many organizations, compared to fixed pay that is guaranteed each pay period in the form of hourly or salary wages. Variable pay is paid only when it is earned in terms of meeting incentives. Finally, non-monetary compensation. While money is the most typical form of compensation people think of when they think of compensation, there are non-financial forms of compensation that may also be a part of a total rewards package for employees. Recognition systems are a popular form of non-monetary compensation. Health and wellness programs are also gaining in popularity. So, in summary on evaluating and compensating employees, motivating employees is a key component of leveraging the talents of employees. The two primary tools managers have to motivate workers are the performance management system and the compensation system. The performance management approach used by managers can impact how employees function within organizations. The appraisal process is an important step for helping turn that employee evaluation into an action plan for moving forward to improve. Some organizations use an annual performance evaluation approach to assessing employee performance, while other companies have turned to less formal, regular check-ins between managers and employees to discuss performance and individual goals. The compensation system used by an organization provides different tactics that managers can adapt to encourage a variety of different behaviors in the workplace. And finally, elements of a compensation system include benefits, both mandatory and voluntary, different pay plans, and non-monetary rewards. And with that, we'll end the fourth part of our five-part lecture on Chapter 16 on human resource management.